Hi everyone, Colin here at Dufrain. I'm sat having a conversation with my colleague Dan. We've just been talking about a recent client project that Dan's been working on, where he's been asked to deliver a BI and analytics solution for a client, and some data quality issues arose, which caused a few problems. And that's led us to having a bit of a conversation, a wider conversation about data quality and its importance. So we thought we'd have a bit of a recorded version of that conversation, talk through some of the key reasons why data quality is important for BI and analytics, where you might be able to identify that your data quality is not where it needs to be, and some of the things you can do to mitigate those issues. But I guess first thing, Dan, we probably ought to explain what we mean by data quality.
Yeah, totally. So I think data quality for us sort of refers to the accuracy, completeness, consistency, and reliability of data. From a BI perspective, it's the foundation upon which informed decisions are made. High quality data ensures that insights derived are trustworthy, actionable, and they drive better business outcomes.
Right. So yeah, I think then to sort of take it down sort of a level, when we're talking about tables of data or data artifacts, we're looking for things where we're expecting a value, but that is blank, or we have the wrong formatted type of information held within a field, or that the field's just incorrect. And then that's really impacting our ability to aggregate that information and derive insights and that mean anything. And yeah, I guess that manifests itself in like a number of different ways. Sort of speaking from experience, so we've all been, as a data analysts or people who've analysed data, we've all been in a scenario where we've been asked to categorize information, and we look across like a graph and we see a really big sort of bar at the end of our chart, and we look at what that category of information is, and it'll be blank or unknown. And that really means that the rest of that information that you've got there is meaningless, or even if that isn't massively huge in terms of the overall population, sort of how you break that down across all of your other categories, your degree of sensitivity of the insights you're able to sort of derive from the information you have becomes really, really difficult. You've got a huge margin of error there. So how you then determine what decisions you need to be making from that data becomes almost as bad as guessing, really. So in those scenarios, it becomes really, really challenging. And there's a few different ways that you can kind of deal with that scenario. You can either make some assumptions similar to let's proportion that across all those things. Really bad idea. We don't like that. There's the sort of tactical legwork of how do I make that data look and feel like it should do, and go through the onerous task and the overhead of picking through all those different data fields and correcting them. In those scenarios, it becomes really, really challenging. And there's a few different ways that you can kind of deal with that scenario. You can either make some assumptions similar to let's proportion that across all those things. Really bad idea. We don't like that. There's the sort of tactical legwork of how do I make that data look and feel like it should do, and go through the onerous task and the overhead of picking through all those different data fields and correcting them. And if you're doing that tactically, you might have to do that every time you're running a piece of analysis, which isn't fun for the analyst, and also can lead to that becoming like a sort of embedded way of working for an organization. And definitely have seen scenarios where some of those tactical data quality scripts have been handed around an organization between analysts, and before you know it, there's slight variations of those things happening in different ways of working. So then you're incurring sort of that multiple versions of the truth again, even at a tactical level. And that's sort of very opposed to sort of our best ways of working, where we're trying to shift that business logic into a central space as close to the data source as possible. So yeah, that whole concept of it's painful to do, it's not very accurate when you do it, and it just slows everything down from a project delivery or an analysis perspective. And yeah, we've all been on projects where we've gone in and said, at face value, this piece of work looks like it should take X amount of time to do. And then you start looking at that information and you go, we've got some problems here because this data isn't in a good enough state for us to sort of make any inferences from. And then you have to start unpicking the processes to understand why the data is not correct. And before you know it, the timelines on a project start drifting sort of really dramatically. And it unearths all sorts of sort of gremlins in the system, right? So the reason why data isn't in the format that we think it should be in is usually because the process isn't working as designed, or new criteria have come in that haven't sort of fitted the data quality framework that you're trying to follow. And both of those things lead to additional cost to resolve and problems like that. Is there anything else, Dan, that sort of problem-wise that you sort of think are salient points?
Yeah, so no, I completely agree with what you're saying there. Everything is sort of better handled upstream, and in an ideal world, as a BI developer or an analyst building a report, you're going to have all nice, fresh, clean data to work with. But it very, very rarely happens. It's very rarely the case, especially if you're trying to sort of migrate a report from one reporting tool to another. You're unpicking a load of calculations that's been done in one piece of software, where they've tried to clean up a load of data within a piece of reporting software. It's so hard to try and unpick it all. So I think it's about realizing what the best practices are, getting in communication with the right people. So whether that's your engineers that you should be consulting, and how as a BI developer or an analyst can you use the tools that you're given to best steer it in the right direction. So for an example, when I was working for one of the UK's largest retailers not so long ago, we were tasked with basically building a new data model and a new suite of reporting for them. Along the way, when we were doing our data discovery, we sort of unearthed over 1 million records worth of erroneous data from various fields. And instead of us trying to put sticky plasters over those, we presented the report as is because we were confident in the scripts that we'd written. And lo and behold, the stakeholders did point holes in some of the graphs and charts and numbers that we presented. But we said, well, yeah, there's a reason for that. It's because the data quality is bad. We didn't put those sticky plasters on. We built an exceptions report that displayed all of that erroneous data and the issues that we found, and hosted a workshop with the engineers, the architects, and the domain owners. And we all got our heads together, thrashed it out, and got everything sorted. So ultimately, they ended up with a really accurate, nice piece of reporting software with no sticky plasters. So everyone was happy at the end of it.
Good. I think there's a couple of really interesting things in what you just said there. So I think the first point is around, so when you're building a report on top of bad data, there's nothing quite like bringing to life bad quality data than having some visuals over the top of it. And I think sort of BI tools are really good at making organizations realize maybe what the state of their data looks like and how people's perceptions kind of differ from reality quite often. And I think some of that is partly to do with why data quality is a problem so often. I think the fact that it's difficult for someone to put a pounds and pence return on investment in the short to medium term on a program of work to improve data quality means that actually, of all of the things that you could be doing at any given time with a change budget, that there's probably other things that get prioritized over the top of that. And I guess it's the impact of data quality normally falls at a lower level across a large number of people. There's like small irritations that take a little bit of time to fix here, there, and everywhere. But all of that accumulated sort of time wasted by a business actually probably adds up to quite a big amount of costs from a people perspective. And all of those kind of inefficiencies or that lack of sensitivity in reporting means that any emerging trends in terms of either opportunities that are emerging in your data or risks, it means that your business isn't as agile to kind of take advantage of those things or to mitigate those things. So opportunities that have emerged, you're only jumping on them kind of once it's kind of a big thing, so you're missing that kind of market edge. Or if it's a risk that's kind of emerging, you're only identifying it at the point where it becomes sort of statistically significant within your margin of error that you've got within your data, and therefore that could be quite a big problem by the time that you've identified it. And then the second point is the concept of you producing a report and taking it to someone and then looking at it and going, there's problems with this. I can tell that there's issues. that opportunity to make a first impression with someone is sort of a first impression, right? You've only got one chance. And where people lose trust in your reporting tool, then that engagement with those tools can often be kind of ruined or like a lot lower than you'd hope it would be. Businesses spend a lot of money implementing these BI tools and trying to get the data to the right people in the right way so that people can make data-driven decisions that are driving key outcomes for the business. But if they've lost trust in that tool, then and they're not using it, then they're back to sort of guessing or gut feel, and bad decisions get made, or the return on investment that a company is hoping for through low engagement is not being realized. So yeah, really important, I think, to make sure that the data quality stuff is kept on top of. And then I think probably like a final piece here to kind of point out is that the emergence of AI, and there's a lot of companies here that are hoping to use AI to gain sort of market advantage through their data. And now data quality in sort of more traditional BI reporting and analytics platforms is a problem. I think if you've got really bad data quality, then AI is only going to make things worse for you, because the capacity for these tools to start profiling and finding correlations between data items becomes infinitely more massive. And if you start receiving these insights from sort of an algorithm that's been put in place, and you don't fully understand how that's been achieved, and it's been based on poor data quality, then yeah, if you're taking those insights at face value, then you really run the risk of making some bad decisions. So I think it's a case of, if you've got the ability to start addressing your data quality now whilst the sun's shining, get that roof fixed, and then once you're in a space where you're confident that that data is telling you what it needs to say, then that's probably when you can start confidently moving into a space where AI is something for you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So finally, then, I guess BI tools themselves. I mean, you've talked about one example on client site there where you've built a suite of reports to look at some reporting elements. I think they're quite good now. They're getting better at being able to profile data and give insights about data quality. Have you got any other examples of things that we can talk about from a BI tooling perspective and how they can be used for identifying data quality issues?
Yeah, totally. So I've worked on another project as well. So it's based on Unity catalog within Azure Databricks, and it has a lot of profiling insights built in. But what's really handy with it as well, it produces metadata for all the clusters when they're being ran. So one of the projects that I did sort of plugged into that Unity catalog, pulled out all the insights, so we were able to give us a view on freshness, able to spot anomalies in the data, able to spot how populated a certain record is, and all those key pieces of insights that really give meaning to sort of your consumer. They can understand how fresh the data is that they're looking at in the reports, and sort of the engineers as well, how much is actually getting populated, how well are these scripts and everything that we're running actually working and doing the trick. So yeah, super crucial.
Great. Well, I think that's a decent summary of data quality and analytics. Hopefully that was interesting for anyone who's watching this. And if you've listened to this and you actually hear some things that resonate with you in terms of the business problems that you're facing, then why not reach out to Dufrain, and we're more than happy to have a bit of discussion around how we can help.